Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Sunday, the 18th day of the month of May, 2025. It is the 5th Sunday of the Easter season, the 29th day of the Easter season. Kind of a overcast day here in North Carolina this morning, but a little bit cooler than it has been with all the heat and humidity around. So we have passed the halfway point of our Easter celebrations. We are now in the latter part of the Easter season. Again, this 5th Sunday of Easter leaves us only with 3 more Sundays, including Pentecost, left after this. And so it is still time and appropriate to make the most of this Easter season. So we, like I said, we moved last weekend on Good Shepherd Sunday away from the empty tomb, away from appearances, away from historical understandings of Christ's resurrection to now, what does this resurrection mean? The bulk of the Easter season leaving us, with trying to understand what resurrection means and what Easter means. It is not just this strange little interlude that happens during a part of the year so that we get back to penance on one side, penance on the other side, and feeling sorry for ourselves and our sinfulness and whatever it is. Easter has to define us. Easter has to be that which shows us what we are called to be, that we then move forward in the rest of this year, to embracing and to integrating into our own lives, which is perhaps why, it is good that it happens in spring, that it happens at the beginning or towards the beginning of our civil years, because again, it's spring here, it'll be fall in the southern hemisphere, but it's still at the beginning of a civil year. And the thing is, that is supposed to help us then be able to define or redefine, again, who we are as believers in this world and what does it mean to be a believer. And so this year, our gospel from John, again, after Judas's departure to go and arrange Jesus's betrayal and his arrest and things like that, Jesus says that God is glorified in this. Again, a seemingly ridiculous thing for Jesus to say at this moment of sadness, and sorrow. Again, is there regret that Judas, moves away to go off to arrest him and have him arrested and to betray him? It doesn't ever seem, to be. And so there's a missing part, perhaps, in all of these narratives about Judas's decision and what happens at that Last Supper, and then his departure afterwards. He is called out, but that's about it. But to say that God is glorified then in the midst of this pain that must be felt, or midst of what is going to follow, again, demonstrates the fact, that this action that Jesus is about to undertake in being tried and being crucified is an act of love, because it isn't only through acts of love that glory happens. Glory does not happen because somebody takes the rap for you. Glory does not happen because somebody is hurt in place of you being hurt. Again, too many times we have gazed upon that cross, as Jesus does this because it should have been you. Jesus has this done to him because it should have been you, which is not a good way ever of approaching, the whole understanding of the incarnation, the whole understanding of why it is, again, that Christ dies and why Christ, undergoes, what he undergoes, because it leads, again, to a greater something. It leads to a greater understanding of what God is powerful of. Again, it is human fear. It is human disbelief. It is human obstinance, and in our own arrogance, perhaps, that again bring Jesus to the cross. It is not necessarily because somebody ate a piece of fruit at the beginning of time of creation. It is because we refuse to listen to him and we get rid of him in the name of peace and quietness. Again, but God will not be undone by our own meager efforts to try to cross God out and to try to X God out. God decides on God's own time to be crossed out, and that is what happens in the crucifixion, but it does not end there. Again, Jesus after Judas leaves, and again before he is arrested, then continues again with these speeches at this Last Supper. And the thing that he says today is that let love be the hallmark that identifies you as people who believe, as people who dare to believe in this world. Love one another, love one another, love one another. Again, in marriage, couples are told to live in abiding love, and that means to remember love at all times, not just in the great times, but most especially in those times that are most challenging. To remember love, to remember love, to remember love, to keep loving each other. Too many times we take a look at the Gospels or the epistles or whatever it is, and we only take a look at those things that are disciplines. What you should do, what you should not to do, how to avoid this, how to avoid that. The thing that we need to do only is to love. This is the central tenet, the central teaching, the central understanding of our lives as believers. People will not be brought to us by our piety and our devotions alone. They will not be brought to us by how many times we spend in a church, how many times we spend on our knees praying, how many times, even perhaps that we receive communion. It is how many times we love, and realizing how powerful love is to defeat death, to defeat darkness, to defeat sin. That is what causes us to rise. Love is what brings life to Jesus after his death. Love. It is what God says our world is now ruled by. We just have to believe it and wake up to its power and its possibilities in our own lives. A continued blessed Easter season. St. Francis and people of God, may the Lord give you his peace.